Welcome, everybody. It's so good to see all of you. Thank you all so much for joining us today. As you're jumping in, please say hi, use the chat, say hello. We just want to know that you guys are here. I just want to say also that the PMA and myself are truly appreciative of all of you guys and all of your support over the years. I really do hope that you guys are finding these sessions useful. And if you're not yet a member of the PMA, please reach out to us. Please consider joining. We have a really great community, and we're membership based, and we certainly are stronger together, and we would welcome you into the community with open arms. So we all know that life is obviously a little bit different right now, and I just want to acknowledge the fact that this is a very fluid situation, and as we are going through this in real time, we're going to do our best to give you our insights and our predictions as best we can, and just know that as things progress and as we have additional updates, we will continue to update you guys. So naturally, as we all know, the more insight we have, the better. So I'm going to start by launching a couple polls. These are going to be anonymous, but please take a second to look at these and answer them so we can gather some data, really get a transparent look at what our community is facing. So I will go ahead and launch this first one now. And as we do that, I would like for our panelists to introduce themselves so you guys can see them, and guys just give your name, title, company, any credits you want to acknowledge. And Allison, we can start with you.
My name is Allison Schneider. I am the head of West Coast TV Music for NBC Universal Television. And I guess that's it. I don't have anything.
All right, Joel.
Oh, hey, I'm Joel. Hi, I'm a longtime music supervisor, first-time PMA panelist. I am also the president of the Guild of Music Supervisors and one of the founding members. I'm happy to be here and happy to be talking to you guys. And I'm glad to see a lot of your faces on the screen. And hey, Natalie.
Adam, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Taylor, president of APM Music and the chairman of the Production Music Association. I'm so grateful for everybody to be here, for thanking the panelists, and for all of you who are attending. I see a lot of people I know and people coming in from all over the world, which is quite amazing. Hey, Chris in England. And in terms of a credit or anything, I was part of the people who hired Morgan. So I'm very proud of that. And glad to have Morgan on board and doing a great job in leading this effort. So thank you.
And Christy, we'll pass it to you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Christy Carew. I work at 5 Alarm Music. I'm one of the in-house writers there, music director, producer. We've been a member of the PMA for a long time, and just seeing everybody from all across the world is wonderful. And thank you so much for having me be a part of this.
Thanks, you guys. So thank you guys all again for giving us your time today. And just very quickly before we get started, I would like to acknowledge someone we lost last week who was a vital piece of the Guild of Music Supervisors family, David Heyman. Heyman was chief music supervisor and creative director for Toronto's supergroup Sonic Branding Company. And he was also the vice president of the Guild of Music Supervisors in Canada. So, on behalf of myself, the PMA, and our entire community, we just want to send the Guild of Music Supervisors family and everyone joining us here today from the GMS a ton of love and support and love and light your way.
Yeah. I was going to just say something really quickly as well. So this was a huge shock to the whole community. It was incredibly sudden, especially during these circumstances. And David left behind a wife and a young daughter, and they started a GoFundMe page. I'll try and find it. Maybe I can put it on the chat here. But obviously it hugely impacted our community, and especially, there's such a small community up in Canada. There's only, a dozen or so, really active music supervisors, and he was the vice president of this, of the Canadian Guild. So it was, devastating. So again, we'll try and see if I can put up the GoFundMe up there if anybody's interested in helping support his family.
Yeah, we can distribute that as well, Joel. So happy to do so. Okay, so let's jump in. Allison, I would like to start with you. Can you give us a little bit of update on network production and programming and where we are with that?
Well, I could tell you that all the meetings I've been in is pretty much mirrored by all the deadline stories that come out every day. So they've been working overtime to try to get us back into production. I've been on a lot of calls with different studio representatives and the unions. And right now, I think what they're hoping is that at the latest, we'll start early August. They're trying to get writers up and running as soon as possible, but it's really kind of, it's assessing specifically with the unions to what is deemed safe practices. They have to really reinvent the wheel as far as how they are going to approach productions going forward. But I do want everyone to know that that is the most important thing right now, at least in my company's eyes, much more important than even getting their staff back physically back in their offices. It's all about production, 24/7. So we have some things that we'll start airing this summer that were already in the can. They're reevaluating the ways that they can do, non-scripted programming, but it's coming back. I mean, I feel like we're just around the corner from it.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
can I just
Joel, absolutely.
I posted up into the into the chat an article from the Hollywood Reporter of a couple of days ago about what Discovery is doing to pick up production and their safety protocols and small teams that they're going to be working with. So it's you all have the link, so it may be there may be some useful information in there for everybody.
Cool. Thank you, Adam. Joel, how has this affected the music supervision world? How has your role shifted, and how do you kind of foresee that going forward? Is it going to be more of a permanent shift, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Alice and I have been having these conversations as well, kind of looking at how it was. Right as soon as this hit, there was a lot of people who were just basically, cut off and saw that their livelihood disappeared. A lot of people who were, looking forward to like movies that were about to be shot or things they haven't planned, all got put on just basically just vanished. And some other people, a lot of people who were doing some TV, they had some episodes in the can, and so they had a lot of things that we're working forward to. And a lot of the those people saw, I guess, the pace of a lot of the post-production really picked up because they suddenly, all the networks and the studios realized that there was not going to be more content, so they wanted to get as much going as soon as possible. But the people who are kind of left in the lurch are really affected by this. I spent the first several weeks basically fielding calls and emails from members who were, were unable to apply previously for unemployment insurance and who didn't know how to do it, and were trying to navigate the small business loan and all the packages that were coming out. I was working with the Guild's benefits committee. We were writing letters to Adam Schiff to advocate for including music supervisors in the redefinition of, the unemployment insurance, the CARES Act. And we were able to kind of advocate for music supervisors and a lot of other people who were on 1099s and who basically didn't have any safety net to be included in that package. So we spent the first several weeks working hard for that. We did a couple of town halls that was really bare bones, like, people talking about their own experiences about navigating the unemployment insurance applications and, trying to apply for the small business loans and what it meant to independent contractors, and giving, firsthand advice about it, and brought in a couple of experts who could advise how we go about doing that. And I think that it softened the blow for a lot of people. And I think it gave some reassurance to people that there was something that could be done. The Guild is very small, and it's, we're about 350 music supervisors across North America, but it's still relatively a small organization. And so we can't do as much as like having the motion picture fund or anything like that. But there were so many other kind of resources like Music Cares, their COVID-19 fund, and a lot of other people who were pitching in, really trying to help. That what we were able to do was to kind of become a clearinghouse for resources and kind of point a lot of these people who were looking at like their livelihood evaporating towards directions that they could help support themselves. So we actually have Angela Sheik, who's works manager for the Guild, is actually putting up some of our resources right now. And so you can kind of go to check out some of our town halls and other kind of resources that we kind of jumped in immediately. I mean, we were making this up as we went. We, got our Zoom platform started like almost immediately and started doing panels just because everybody needed this sense of community. We've done a couple of, online showcases and a couple of happy hours and things like that, just to kind of, music supervisors are a very social group. So these kind of things, while it seems like a drop in the ocean, I think do make a bit of a difference. So we've been incredibly active.
That's great. And I guess for Alice and Angel, we know there's certainly a pipeline of production usually. Where are we at as far as like that pipeline of kind of backed up content that may be in post? Are we kind of at its end, or is there still kind of some stuff? I don't know what you guys are seeing there.
We're at our end. I mean, we had a few series that had quite a bit of content that was in the can, and we were able to finish that. We've got one series that we're launching on Peacock called Brave New World, which we were able to keep going. We did it all remotely, but we had probably a half dozen episodes that we still had. But I've been checking in with my team every week too, because collectively we probably oversee about 60 or 70 shows. Probably I'd say in the last week, I've been getting the notices from all of them that they're kind of at the end. So I think, I do feel like we're going to get up and running again, probably really soon without everybody being too dark. But unfortunately, we're at the end, and we didn't even produce any pilots. I mean, when this happened, we were probably 10 days out from going into production on our pilots. So I think we have one that was just marginally shot, but nothing. I mean, it hit us exactly at the worst place it could hit us.
Yeah, I'll tell you this from my personal, I do all the music for Tyler Perry Studios, and he's obviously been in the news a lot because he's looking to go into production on 2 television series starting late June, early July. Things that he's already written, and he's pretty much singularly positioned to be able to do that, because he can, knock out 25 episodes of a television series the way he shoots them in 2.5 weeks. And basically his plan is that because he owns the largest studio in the world, he bought a 400-acre army base, and it's a walled army base with barracks and officers' quarters and a hospital and, mess hall. All of that stuff is contained there, and he can build hotels and everything. And basically, if he's got to quarantine his cast and his crew for, a little bit of time for pre-production and keep them isolated, and then basically shoot it for 2.5 weeks, shoot these shows, he can show a model of how it can be done, where it's like, they go to Iceland and shoot out in the wilderness for 2.5 weeks on Game of Thrones. And they're like, that's pretty much what we're talking about here. You're going to have it be in a lockdown, closed community where there's no in and no out until we're done shooting. And then when you're done, you're free to go. But, and after that, you've got a whole series. And then they've got, editors that are cutting this stuff. Like I'm still working on series that they shot, and they've got editors basically working in isolation, cutting and putting them together. And I just got word last week from a couple of producers that I'm working with who shut down like immediately when we were about to go into production on a couple of little TV movies. And they're like, we're going into production in June. So they're looking at going into states like Georgia and Nevada and, trying to figure out if they can do it. Obviously, they have to get the go-ahead from SAG and from, IATSE that it's safe for their members to go ahead. But, people are people are really thirsty for content right now, and they need to, I don't want them taking unnecessary risks to do that. And I'm afraid they may cut some corners. So I'm trying to be a little bit of a voice of reason. But, you know, people want to make movies.
I think the interesting thing that I've learned about this is it's what they feel like may actually impact it more than anything is going to be the talent. That you've got the crews that are ready to go back to work, you know, the studios are ready to produce everybody, but they don't know if the stars are going to want to get on planes to travel to where they need to travel to make it happen, or if they're going to be willing to go into quarantine for 8 weeks. So that, I think, is probably what's going to impact a lot of the projects, is who's going to make themselves available, who's comfortable, and especially as far as timelines. So maybe a show that you're accustomed to seeing premiering in the fall might not premiere until sometime next year because the talent just simply doesn't feel comfortable yet. And, you know, they're not going to force them to do something that they're not ready to do.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Interesting. Okay. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. We'll circle back to that maybe a little bit later. Christy, from a creative standpoint, aside from, you know, the obvious remote recording, working from home and all of that, what would you say was the most unexpected change that you guys went through, and how have you and your team adjusted to that?
Yeah, we basically, one of the most unexpected things for me from the music direction standpoint was that it actually hasn't slowed down very much for myself and my colleague Evelyn. We have been just as busy as we ever were in terms of all of those things that were in the pipeline that still needed music. Custom work did slow a bit as expected, but then again, my colleague is just starting on a brand new project that's pretty big to fulfill a large custom request. So the other part was that we still had some things in the works that we finished up on, doing a couple custom things that we now needed to, instead of being in a studio and doing, we now needed to record remotely. So there's me writing and getting the sheet music ready, sending it out to the musicians, not being there in person to guide them, but, you know, working with them remotely, getting it all packaged, sent back. The smoothness surprised me. The ability of everyone to make this happen in a way that maybe took a little longer, but actually not that much longer. I was really genuinely pleased and excited and surprised to see how smoothly everything went and how our industry is able to adapt and be flexible. That's probably my biggest message from all of this, is that I think it's uniquely situated to be flexible, to go through something like this and still be producing high quality content for the needs of our clients and the needs that everybody has to stay uplifted during this time. Everybody's leaning on entertainment quite a lot right now. So yeah, that was definitely the most unexpected thing, was that I've still been busy all day long.
So what trends are you seeing with that, with the requests coming in? What kind of content, what kind of genres of music, where is it going? Where, you know, what are you seeing on that end?
So it has stayed pretty steady for us in that regard. So we have a really huge catalog with a lot of breadth and depth, from things that are current top 40 styles to a really deep classical catalog to more offbeat genres. So we're still working on pretty much all types of content, from studio features, indie films, trailers, network streaming television to advertising and beyond. And so all of that content for us has continued to be produced during this time, and the briefs are still really specific to the production. And we're still seeing a lot of content that's across the board in many styles, many different needs. Within those genres, it's more about the specific trends within each genre. So for example, in the world of hip hop, we're getting demands in so many different styles, one of them being epic trailer hip hop with like very sound designy, sound effect type production. At the same time, we're getting asked for hypercurrent, darker kind of SoundCloud style rap artists like Roddy Ricch. And then at the same time, all these amazing female rappers, similar to Megan Thee Stallion, Doja Cat, and then also more alternative female rappers, somebody like Lil Sims from the UK. So luckily we had kind of thought about this last year and produced a really amazing album working with up and coming female rappers here in LA, and that has been a very timely album. So it's really more that each genre has kind of lasered in on different styles within that genre that we're still getting asked for a lot. And then we're seeing a lot of noise in the advertising department, definitely, like brands are utilizing this lull in business. They want to make noise, they want to remain relevant. So advertising has picked up a lot. And then even in our very small markets, it's like something like a church, which has pushed their business online, not their business, but, you know, their services online, and they're needing music for that. So there's been kind of an impact across all segments of our business, from large to small, like that.
That's very interesting. So you mentioned advertising, so I want to go ahead and share the results from the second poll that we had, that kind of breaks down where people are seeing some of those licensing opportunities. So it's kind of across the board. I mean, to your point, Christy, advertising is definitely the highest at this point. But we still have a very strong contention in TV and digital. So, it seems like it is still pretty spread out across the board. That, Adam, what are you guys seeing at APM as far as the trends there? And, are brands really trying to adopt that, mood and tone of the era? Or, do you see an increase or decrease in any specific genre? What are you seeing from your point of view?
Well, we're seeing some of the similar trends that everybody has talked about and that Christy mentioned, and so we're seeing business in a lot of areas, a lot of promo uses, and as production pipeline has dried up, advertising has been very, very strong. We're also seeing a lot of increase in kind of what I would call contextual experiences. So health and fitness apps and cooking apps and things like that. We put music into different creator tools because so much of the music industry is based on creative tools, and there are a lot of ways to connect in with those, which are very interesting, and virtual events, which we're supplying music for. In terms of the types of music, it was funny when this first started. People wanted like half the requests were, I need piano and strings, and I need something that is emotional in some way. And then they burned through that, and now people don't want piano and strings. So they're specifically saying make sure it's not piano and strings based, which is interesting. They're also looking now at things that are sincere, but not too sad, and uplifting at the end. So we're getting a lot of that. The uplifting at the end is an important part of it. We're also looking for, ones who are looking for tracks with lyrics, they want lyrics about togetherness. And so this seems to be a very common theme that we're seeing across the board. And essentially, I think that they don't want tracks that are downers. They don't want to feel worse than they're already feeling. So the hopefulness is a big thing. And I think that as we're inching towards opening up in certain areas, even though it's going to take a long time until life returns to normal, if there ever will be a new, back to the way that it was. People are feeling optimistic, and so the requests that are coming in are really driving that, particularly as advertising is stronger than TV production right now. The hopefulness aspect is something that the advertising agencies on behalf of their clients really want. I mean, overall, we're feeling very hopeful about things. Our business has not really been impacted much, except in where we've lost in one area, we've compensated in another area. And I also think that if budgets are slashed at any point, people need production music because it's high quality music. I like to say that it's a Rolls-Royce product at a Chevy price. And so, and it may be in some cases more difficult to do custom music, and maybe not affordable to use commercially released music in many cases. And so we think that production music industry will be very strong.
Totally agree.
Yeah, that's a great point, and leads perfectly into the next question. Allison, as far as budgets go, and kind of what trends are we seeing there? Where are our budgets? How are our budgets? And are we seeing any kind of trends from commercial music licensing to maybe production music licensing due to, the nature of the costs and things of that sort? Or what are our budgets looking like?
I think we've definitely seen a push to go towards production music as much as possible for promotions. I mean, our show budgets, as we've been wrapping them up, they were what they were. So we were able to continue to license from production as well as, labels and publishers, which we did kind of see an uptick a little bit in some of that pricing. But, as a corporation that's trying to keep a lot of people employed at home, they are really trying to manage costs as much as possible. So they have encouraged everyone to kind of steer away from licensing big hit songs right now and really try to use as much library music or custom. We are still creating quite a bit of custom as well for promos. So it's a good time to be in the PMA. And I think, you know, we're learning how to do things differently. And the music is on par with anything that we would license, you know, from Atlantic Records or whatever. So I think it's good anytime we can have a shift to remind the talent that's out there and that they don't necessarily have to go spend a lot of money for something.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. Joel,
Yes.
we touched briefly on production opening back up, and you know, Tyler Perry Studios trying to open back up. How is that conversation going for music supervisors and for kind of people in your role? How do we, as production start moving into opening, what do you think we can expect from like a music standpoint? Do you think that, you know, music people will continue to work from home? How is that going to transpire into like a longer term?
Yeah, no, we've been having a lot of conversations, both internally with members of the guild and also externally reaching out to people like Allison and other music executives who we work with closely. And, you know, when there's a couple things going on. When the pandemic hit and everybody realized what a tenuous situation music supervisors are in and how vulnerable they are to something shutting down and basically turning off the spigot of income, we've been kind of, you know, taking this time as a pause and doing a little bit of a reset to discuss, you know, potentially when everybody starts back up, what it looks like, and try and do it in a way that makes a lot of sense for music supervisors, for studios and networks, and also for, you know, music creators, a really more kind of collaborative, you know, smart way of doing business. And so we're still in the middle of those conversations trying to figure that out. I mean, the way it looks for us is, you know, there's such a pent up need for production that, you know, when it actually kind of gets started, I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of need for outside music people, not necessarily, you know, music departments to handling this. So I think that it possibly is going to be a good time for music supervisors if we can get our act together and be ready for it. I think that there is going to be, you know, I think that, you know, post-production schedules, I think, are going to be shorter. I think that, you know, everybody's going to be trying to save money because production costs are going to be up a little bit for a lot of these things to pay for pandemic, you know, protection. You know, the insurance is going to go up for all these things. And so I think there's going to be some downward pressure on anything that is not involved in the production itself. I think that, you know, post-production, people who can work from home are going to be in huge need, but I think that people are going to be trying to save money in terms of, you know, paying people in post-production, and also in what they pay for, what they look at as, you know, flexible budgets, which are going to be music and things like that. I think it's going to be really active, but I think it's going to be something where we have to be smart in making sure that the downward pressure isn't extreme and that we kind of keep the value in a lot of things. We have a lot of, you know, internal conversations about trying to make sure that I guess that budgets don't go way down to compensate for things. Like on one of the TV movies I'm working on, they're talking about an increased cost of like, you know, $75,000 just to make sure that there's proper protections for cast and crew on set. And they straight out asked me, like, can we take that from music? And I said, no, it's, you know, I'm like, God, why are you asking me? You can tell me that you're going to do it, but if you're asking me if, you know, I can make the music be cheaper or something like that, we can always try. That's our job, is to get the best deals, but take it from somewhere else. God damn it. You know, we're trying to be prepared. It's going to be a little bit different. And when everybody comes back, you know, like I've got 2 films right now that are about to go. I have, you know, composers working. In fact, Natalie is on here as a composer that we're finishing up a Christmas movie, Natalie Bonin, and, you know, then they're going to be doing the mixes, and I don't know how they're going to be doing that. You know, are they going to be, you know, trying to do it the way they used to do with people on a big stage and everybody giving their opinions? Because I don't think that's going to happen. You know, I think that I've got 2 films that are doing that right now. And the director, we had a conference call yesterday, and the director straight asked me if I was going to be, you know, potentially sacrificing my life for the good of the film. And I was like, no, I'm not, but thanks. But, you know, so we're looking at eventualities and trying to be smart about going for this, but it's going to be weird.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get all kinds of people asking all kinds of things, and we have to be careful. We have to protect the value of music, but more importantly, we have to protect the value of our lives. And so, you know, I think we'll see versions of what Joel is mentioning, and people asking people things and gauging how much somebody is willing to take a risk. And I'm concerned that the work will be going to the people who will be more willing to take the risk than you know, than having a set of standards and practices that are accepted by the industry across the board.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing it in our small way. Music supervisors are totally good working from home. Most of us, you know, have been doing that for a while. A lot of the independent people work from home and stuff. So we're infinitely set up to do it. I have like 4 people who work for me, and I haven't seen them in like 2.5 months, and we're still chugging along. You know, I've been going out. Like I said, I've got composers working remotely that are delivering, you know, full scores. They're just having to go to, you know, record parts with people who are in their own home studios, you know, and, you know, everybody's kind of adapting and making it work. And I think that it's going to be a little bit more of the new normal on that. I think that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be trying to figure it out and be safe and, you know, and again, you know, fight for keeping the quality up while they're doing that.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I don't think a company, a legitimate company is not going to ask people to put themselves at risk, because anybody who tries to do that, we're putting ourselves at risk. I mean, obviously it's a huge liability, and the last thing they want to do is be responsible for people getting sick or losing their lives. And I think what this has shown us this summer is that a lot of these roles that we felt had to be in person don't have to be in person. I mean, we're recording a complete orchestra for Umbrella Academy, and it's all being done remotely. So I think everybody's learned to adapt. And what you're going to see, at least on the production side, is really limited people. You're going to have a much, much smaller staff of people. You're not going to have a lot of producers milling about or non-essential workers. It's going to be a very contained space. But I honestly don't see, and from the conversations that I've been a part of and the things I've been privy to, that it's going to be a negative impact going forward on the music part of at least the TV productions that I'm a part of. I mean, we've set our budgets at a certain point. They're not asking me to take the budgets down. We got a raise, which I'm going to talk with Joel about later. I fought for a raise for music supervisors and composers about 3 or 4 months ago that got approved. They're set, they're in the budget, nobody's taking them away. So I think people just need to stay really positive and be willing to do what they have to do to adjust, but know that it's strange now and it may not ever go back to looking like what it looked like before. But I don't think the work is going away. I think, like Joel said, there's such a volume of content. There's such a voracious appetite. It's coming back, and you need people to do it. And when we used to think there were way too many music supervisors or way too many people trying to be a composer, I don't think that anymore. I think there are way too many projects and maybe not enough people to work on them. And you can't have one guy doing 12 shows. It's just, as much as they think they can, it's just not physically possible. So I feel that this is all going to come back, and it's going to come back in a really great way. And I think everybody are going to be protected in ways they probably should have always been protected. Yeah. And I know I have issues when I go to Paquito Mas and look at that salsa bar and wonder how on earth everybody's dipping into the same pools of salsa. So I think we're just becoming more aware of probably something we should have all been aware of for a long time. And I think it's going to be, I mean, I feel really good about it. I think the work is there. The work is coming back, and there's going to be a ton of it.
I think, you know, we're seeing also, I don't know how many people who are on the call here are composers, but we've seen no slowdown in the creation of library albums. People have figured out how to work remotely and how to collaborate. And we didn't want anything to slow down. We wanted to get the same rate of music in that we're getting, because we know that people are going to need music, and whether it's today or tomorrow or whatever. And as I said before, if we lose music, I mean, business in one area and we gain it in another, we still need music for it. And so we have still kept up the same pace. And internally at APM, we didn't let anybody go. In fact, we also gave raises and actually have hired 3 new people since COVID started. So we feel very, very positive about the future and about the role that library music plays in that. And I think that that's true from what I've heard from my peers as well. That's true for everybody at the PMA.
Allison, you kind of briefly touched on this, but there has been some talk and concern of, well, if budgets are slashed, do we see networks moving to royalty-free libraries or things of that nature?
You will never go there.
Is there a risk there across the board? Is there a risk that is there any type of risk for budgets being slashed to an extent that results in that?
I mean, definitely not on my end, and I could speak on behalf of my counterparts at the other major studios. We'll never go royalty free. We will always fight to maintain the budgets. And like I said, we had seen the budgets going up. I mean, we produce content for so many different people, though. I mean, I've got all the NBC Universal Television networks, but I'm also producing for Hulu and Netflix and Amazon and Apple and all of them. And so because of that, we have to take into consideration all of our clients, but we also hold the line. I mean, you've read in the press, I mean, obviously Discovery Networks tried their ploy last year, and there have been other streaming services that have made an attempt to go royalty free, but we see the value, and I think I can speak on behalf of all my counterparts, where we will never let that happen as long as we're running the ship. There's too much value to it. And I don't, at the end of the day, to create a royalty-free situation, you have to also try to assess the value of what that project's going to be. You still have to make an offer that is fair. So it's a lot more money, and it's a risk. It's like playing the lottery. You could be overpaying or you could be underpaying. More likely, you would be overpaying, and at the end of the day, you would just be losing anyway. So you don't get a lot of those massive hits where you've actually won the lottery and, oh, thank God we only gave, John Debney $200,000 because look at how much money we made. So I don't think anybody you definitely don't have to worry about my company. And I could say you don't have to worry about Sony or any of the others.
I wanted to add to that I don't want to mention who it is, but there was a network brand and a brand that was recently taken over by one of the majors where they're producing all of the new programming, and this brand and a smaller network had come to us saying, we want music gratis and we want a percentage of the publishing on the back end. We've all heard too many of these kind of deals. It's really horrible. And when the major got wind of this, they just put a kibosh on the entire thing. They said, we don't do business this way. We're going to pay you for your music, and we're going to pay your rates, and we're not taking a piece of your back end. And they really chided the network that had the smaller network that they now run for doing this. It was a great feeling. It just happened last week, and it was amazing. So I'd love to see more of that, obviously.
I'll tell you where the danger is, though, for people not standing up like that. It really is in independent film, and producers and things like that are doing it. We're looking for ways to save money, and music always seems like that kind of flexible budget. I go into sometimes and I'll see that they've budgeted $0 for music with producers I've worked with for years, and they said, well, we'll see what's in the contingency, and then we'll kind of fill in that blank ahead of time. And I always say, all right, have somebody else do it though. But it's I think is worrisome that it could be more of a pressure where people are trying to, they're given a budget they have to deliver to, like, a distributor for that budget, and they have to, if they're getting bigger costs because production is going to cost more to make, they're going to look to save it somewhere, and music is always a vulnerable place.
I think that the very nature of music revenue is what creates that problem. The fact that there is a back end of music, so on performance revenue, so people know that they have leverage over you, and they can say, well, you give us the music for very little money or for free or whatever, because they know that you're going to get money on the back end. So
yeah, a lot of times they don't even know that. They can just go online and say, look, I found a library where I don't have to pay any money for. And that's what I have to answer that question a lot with my independent producers and first-time directors and things. I work with a lot of people like that who see that there is a way for music to be free, And, you know, it's one of those kind of intangibles about intellectual property. They were like, look, I don't have to pay any money and I'll have music. And you have to go through a process with them, educating them why, you know, both in terms of morally it's correct, but also when you get what you fucking pay for.
Right. And also what happens if there's a sample in that? Is that composer going to be able to indemnify you? Do they have an insurance policy? You know, you could lose your house over it. So
it's it's a struggle that we have all the time when we have, especially in our unscripted area where the budgets are significantly lower than anything else. And you get a producer that comes in that says, you know, this kid I know has a library of cues and he'll give it to us for free. And, you know, we're always trying to hold the line. And certainly, I mean, we don't limit ourselves to the libraries that we work with. You know, everybody that knows me knows, especially in the scripted side, I mean, we have blankets with just about anybody that asks to have a blanket with us. But it's a real challenge to explain to a producer why you don't want them to onboard this library that's willing to do it for free to just hopefully pick up the back end. And occasionally, you know, we'll go ahead because we have to politically and allow them to maybe onboard them for the one show, but we also at the same time make sure that we have all of our other libraries available and try to kind of tag team with our other productions so that if that particular show can't afford them, maybe they can go ahead and use them anyway because we know other productions are paying into it. But I mean, Joel knows that we've been talking about this our entire careers as music supervisors. It's always been such a struggle.
Yes.
All right. That's a lot of info. Thank you guys. A lot of great info there. I want to shift again a little bit. Christy, I want to go back to you. What type of music do you see? So Adam briefly mentioned initially we saw strings and piano, and now we're not seeing that anymore. So I guess two questions. How quickly are you seeing trends shift? And what kind of music do you see being, you know, triumphant as production starts opening back up and kind of as we transition into any type of open society again?
So one of the larger things that I mentioned before that we're starting on is definitely music that is more exuberant, upbeat, fun, kind of like this funky pop, hip hop style. But also, I think that a lot of content documenting the pandemic and these unprecedented circumstances that we're all living through, remembering the lives that we have lost, that has already started. And of course, a lot of that music is reflecting the somber nature of everything that the country and world has been through. But also they're needing, as Adam mentioned, the themes of hopefulness, friendship, family, working together. That is part of those and coming after that. As a lot of people have turned to entertainment for solace and to be uplifted, most of these forms of documentation, while they go over how terrible it's been, they're also going to be pivoting into the positive things that are now happening as we work towards reopening. My hope is that as production comes back, we get all of our composers and musicians that maybe have struggled in recent months back to their craft, and we can all embrace kind of the personal changes that we've made and create something wonderful and inspired with everything that we work on. I would continue to encourage composers to work on blending their original voice and individual strengths with the needs of the industry and what's in demand. Look where they can fill holes in catalogs, look what they can offer, and continue to work on building really good organic personal relationships with some of the people that are here. I've missed getting to see Allison. I've missed getting to go to Guild of Music Supervision events that Joel and all the wonderful people there put on, going to PMA events and seeing Morgan and Adam. I've missed all of that, but I've also found that during this, bonds have been strengthened. So that part of it, I think, is going to come back strong. And then in terms of the trends shifting, it has stayed pretty, as I mentioned before, it has stayed pretty solid during this, that it's quite wide ranging. But then within those different genres, there have been trends that have come up and different things that people are focusing on when it comes to the response to this. There's some that were very warm and uplifting and heartfelt, and some that were trying to find a little bit of comedy and levity and lightheartedness. So it's been remarkably consistent and really uplifting that it's been so busy, and that there is so much room for all of the composers to continue building on their strengths and filling in for what's needed.
Awesome. Adam, what do you think are some of the long-term changes that you see as a possibility in industry, and how do you think we can prepare for those, more importantly?
Well, some of these things I don't think we can prepare for, like, although you never know what's going to hit you. I think one of the most surprising things for me during this time has been that I've been talking to people on video calls that I had no idea what they looked like. I had never talked to them on video before. It always been on the phone or by email, and now it just becomes the natural thing. And anybody, I get hit up all the time for the various meetings from technology companies or clients or composers or whatever, and I always say, well, I'll send you a Zoom link. And so we are always talking on the phone. I met some composer the other day that somebody introduced me to. On a weekend, we ended up talking for 2 hours. And it just never would have happened. And we were talking about music and about family and other things. So it is my hope and it's my belief that these things will continue. If you take obviously getting back together in person is really needed for the human experience, and that is happening and will continue to happen at some pace, depending on where you're living. But I think that there will be a permanent addition to that, which is this ability to get together on video. So I see that happening. I think that people will maybe look at their schedules a little bit differently and what they're spending their time on. And for me, I expected the amount of work to go down, and it's been the opposite. And every day is almost fully scheduled with Zoom calls or whatever, and you can't walk down the hall anymore and pick up a piece of information or having something spontaneous or serendipitous. You have to plan it. And so that to me, it's a bit of a negative, and but it's there. And so it's caused me to look at how I spend my time, and am I spending enough time on other things that are important to me in addition to work. And I think that leads to a more balanced human experience for myself as well as for everybody and everybody in my company. So I'm really spending time looking at how people are spending their time and making sure that people are getting a break. And we want people on Memorial Day weekends to take off and not work, and really making sure that they're finding other things to stimulate them that they then in turn bring back to the business. So hopefully it's a time for reflection.
I agree with that. And for myself, speaking as a working mom, I've really embraced this time. I've really embraced the stay-at-home orders. Our company is very family focused, always been really understanding of that. But working remotely and balancing that, it's really kind of brought a new balance, as Adam says, to life and getting to be around family more outside of your work hours. And balancing that has been a challenge, as I'm sure it's been for many people on this call, but it's actually caused me to grow a lot. And I'm finding that also reflected in the music that I write and the things that I create. So looking forward in our industry, like I'm just so hopeful. I feel so great about how we balanced it. And this digital boom, the incredible amount of content that it's about to come up and we're about to start working on. I'm so impressed with how flexible we are. I'm impressed with how we adapted. Some of the things that were delayed and not canceled outright, that's all going to come roaring back. And I feel like this boom fits our community perfectly. And there's going to be all of this, a large amount of direct need that our business is going to fill. And I think that should be a message of hope and excitement for all composers and creators. So.
And just picking up on that, on the PMA level, we are going to continue to do these online sessions. There are over 250 people on this call, and that's amazing. And as the word spreads on these things, we'll get more and more, and hopefully we're conveying some information that's useful to people. And so we will continue. When we can get back in person, we will get back in person. But even then, we will continue to do these things. It allows us to talk among ourselves, and we can have all kinds of different formats and ways that we can experiment with. Also, like we did on the last call, we brought in some people who are experts in certain areas as well on this call with Allison and Joel and and with Christy. So I think it really just opens up a whole other door and way of communicating in deeper ways, in addition to getting together in person.
So we have just about 10 minutes left, and I have a couple more questions for our panelists, but I do want to start gathering questions if anyone has anything specific from our audience. So if you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I will use those as we get into our Q&A. But I do want to ask Joel and Allison, both of you, how can composers and publishers support you and others in similar roles as yours right now? Has anything changed here? And just in general, what's working, what's not working? How can we support you in your roles as we adjust and pivot in this world?
I always feel supported by my composers and songwriters. They're like, the reason we get into this line of work is because, we're fans first, and, we love what they do. And so, having a fantastic composer working and really toiling and delivering amazing, just, music that helps tell the stories in ways that it's really hard to define is great support. I mean, I think as a music supervisor, sometimes I feel that there's a disconnect, unfortunately, that happens sometimes where the music supervisor isn't communicating with composers directly. Sometimes that happens in television when the showrunner wants to be the lead on that kind of stuff. And and that's their process and stuff. But I really feel like, one of the things that when I started back in October, which feels like 15 years ago as president for the Guild, one of my main ambitions was to have stronger relationships with composers, not just in terms of like, we're the music supervisor, you're the composer, but we're the music team. And how do we work better together to make sure that the music is fantastic, that there's communication, that, whatever support, a music supervisor can give to a composer or songwriter is there to help with booking studios, helping with all that kind of stuff. We don't make the music. We just try and help the ones that are making the music make it as best as they can. So I think that, just the offer of how composers can help us, I think is very generous. I think that, really it's about having, great relationships there with supervisors and composers and songwriters. Allison, you're above me.
I think I'm.
So pointing at
Well, I agree. And I think, for me, I have different relationships with different composers. I mean, there's certain productions I work on where I'm talking to the composer constantly, and they're really keeping me abreast of things, especially if they feel like maybe they're not being heard. It's really important that they know that they can come to me and I can advocate on their behalf. Same with the productions. Production feels like the composer's not hearing them. I think it's already, I guess if I'm speaking to a bunch of composers right now, I would say ideally in a perfect world, I would love to have that on every single project that I work on and not just specific ones. I mean, there's certainly some shows where for some reason, I don't know if it's an agent composer situation where maybe the agent doesn't want the composer necessarily speaking with me directly, but I've had some surprises where it turns out the relationship isn't working out and it's gotten to a point to where it's really difficult to get everybody to sit down and mediate and actually have a real conversation because they've already hit the end of their rope. And had I known, had the composers known that they could trust me and really start communicating with me early on, I very well could have been able to fix the situation. So that's it. But that's pandemic aside. That's just general life, and that's just how I would love it to always work.
Cool. And Christy and Adam, what opportunities do you guys see for the future of our industry? What's positive in all of this?
Christy, you want to go first?
Yeah, for me, the positives are everything that's happened. It's all been a shared experience that we've all been through. We've strengthened our relationships a lot of the time. Like Adam said, I've had that same situation of knowing someone over email or over phone, and then seeing their wonderful face and talking to them has really brought us together more. I'm excited. I'm ready for what's to come next and getting everybody back up and running again, and to get started again with our production and the briefs that I'm currently working on and the album that I'm currently writing and everything. I'm just infusing it with that excitement for what's to come. And I'm just really pleased that all of the composers that I personally worked with and all the ones that I'm pitching every day have stayed busy, have stayed working. Everyone has seemed to weather it really well. And I'm just feeling like we're going to continue to grow as we're uniquely situated to deliver for our clients and to deliver high quality for everyone. We're just in a really great position for that. And I'm looking forward to the future and what it brings.
I agree. Feel the same way, really. I think that also this has reminded a lot of people of how central music is to everything. And, we're seeing it in the increase in the streaming services and even TikTok. And with any popular video on TikTok has music and oftentimes is music based. And so, I have 4 kids in the house here, two my own, two my wife's, ranging from 23 to 15, and they are totally into music. They write music, they play music. We found out on Facebook Marketplace and on Craigslist that you can get for free an organ we got a Baldwin Bravo for $1. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of people giving away organs because probably their parents grew up with them in the 50s and 60s, and with the 2 rows of keyboards and all the buttons and things like that. Nobody wants them anymore, and so we actually had somebody pick it up. We got this keyboard for $1, and I mean this organ for $1, and they're playing it and they're sampling it and they're putting it into EDM and they're doing all kinds of things. So I think that music is this thing that connects everybody in some way, and I'm very, very hopeful. We're very fortunate to be in this business. It's intellectual property. You don't have to walk into a retail store to get it, and it plays an emotional and central role in things. And between ourselves and the other libraries of the PMA, we contribute such a large percentage of music that is in programming today that it's this conduit from composers all over the world to be able to have an outlet to have creatively and financially and to participate in the culture of the world. So for me, I'm very, very optimistic and hopeful and positive, and I think that's been reflected in what's happening in our business on a day-to-day basis and what I hear from the industry. And once production comes back up, sky's the limit.
Yeah, Adam, I think maybe your kids' organ music might be the next thing to go really big viral on TikTok. And you never know. We're going to have albums like that. We're going to be making albums of a similar style. Everyone's going to jump on that.
There you go. That's actually not a bad idea. We should promote the fact that these things are available and everybody should get them. Actually a good idea.
Okay, cool. We have time for just probably a couple questions. So we have one from Mike Thompson that says, how important is physical proximity anymore? There's the organ. Nice. That was $1?
This was $1.
Wow.
So there are hundreds of them up there. So
bargain shopping. How important is physical proximity anymore for music supervision companies? Is it even necessary for a music library or supervision company to maintain an active physical office? Or can all services be provided remotely from employees and composers across the country and world? Adam, we'll start with you on this, and then we'll move over to Joel if you have any.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to say one thing though. Angela posted up organ donor. So this is the new form of organ donor. So thank you. Excuse me. I think that I think physical proximity is vitally important for human beings, and I think it's important to get together. It doesn't mean we need to be as together as we needed to be all the time. And I had a view that I wanted everybody in the office all the time because there's so much camaraderie and so much that comes from everybody being together. I've shifted my view on that. We've been very, very efficient remotely, and some people are just they have long commutes, and this has saved them a lot of time. So I see in the future a balance where people will be able to spend some part of their week at home and some part of the week in the office, so that we achieve both of the goals. We save time, but we also get people together and capture the human side of it. So that's how I'm planning on doing it. I think it actually also, we were about to need to take more office space, and I don't think we need to do that. I think we'll move to, in some cases, to shared offices where one person can use the office 3 days a week, another 2 days a week, and that we can rotate people and things. And that way they also get to work at home and take care of both of those things. So that's my view of how it's going to go.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure how it's going to work out for us, but while I do miss my colleagues a lot and I miss being with everyone, it has also not impacted our efficiency in any way. We get together on Zoom, we work on things really well collaboratively, and it has been great. And we also have people with commutes, and it's definitely just increased the balance that we all have in our lives. So I've been personally very much appreciating that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've been, you know, like I said, I haven't seen the people that I work with in over 2 months in person. And it's okay, but you know, it's like I loved having our sessions where we'd play music for each other and bounce stuff off each other and play stuff against scenes. And so we're doing a lot of that stuff through Zoom and sharing screens. And I've got a couple of interns who started like the day before, like March 13th, like they started their first day in the office, and then I haven't seen them since then, but they've been really active, and we schedule like regular Zoom sessions where like they're trying to figure out how to do cue sheets and do clearances with us. And so, you know, we share screen and give them, because I look at when we have interns that work for us, I really do look at it as like we have to teach them something. I want them to come away. This is education. So we're working really hard to show them like the mechanics and the process of music supervision and music creation. And so we're doing an okay job of it, but it kind of sucks. And then it really is going to be the rubber hits the road when we try and figure out how do we go and listen to a final dub on a movie, and you can't be in the same building as anybody. How do you do that? You can't do that over headphones necessarily for a movie like that. So we're going to have to figure that one out. And Allison's already got the orchestra thing down, and I want to hear more about that. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I can't take credit. But I think, I mean, in that particular case, it's Jeff Russo.
Jeff Russo, right?
As soon as it started, he made sure actually that he had musicians equipped that weren't necessarily prepared at home, and got the microphones and helped with his team to get everyone up and running. So it's been pretty incredible. I mean, I guess you see it in the news anyway. You see the various philharmonics in the country that have been managing to still do concerts. And
I think I saw something that Laura Karpman was involved with, or put something together with a virtual orchestra as well.
Yeah, so, not surprised. Yeah,
you could hit her up.
Phil Eisler also has been doing quite a bit. I mean, he's been really instrumental in making sure that all the musicians are staying connected virtually. And I think he did his final episode of Empire, you know, was done remotely, and that's with a full orchestra. I have to say, I mean, it's completely heroic to me. I don't know how you assemble 35 to 50 musicians on Zoom essentially and record them and get all their individual parts pieced together and all that. It's amazing.
All right, guys, well, we are about out of time. I just wanted to really briefly share the poll results from the first poll that we ran. This is very interesting, and I want to say, for those that have said that their business is down a lot or slightly down, which is, you know, a significant amount of you, please feel free to reach out. I will put my email here in the chat for everybody. And, you know, if there's anything that we can do to help, or, you know, send resources your way or anything of that nature, please feel free to reach out, and we're happy to help you. And I think that is it. Does anyone have any last comments to leave us on?
I would just like to ask everybody, if you can, to become a PMA member. It's vitally important for the support of the organization so that we can continue to do these things and more. And we have a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of battles to fight, free music being one of them. And so we could really use everybody's support. It's, I think, $99 for a year. So you can go to the PMA website, pmamusic.com, and do it. So greatly appreciate the support from everybody. We will be, we're doing the MARC Awards, part of the PMA, of the Production Music Conference this year, remotely, but we've canceled anything physically, and we will be moving to doing the actual one in person next September. We didn't feel it was practical or a good idea to ask people to make commitments to travel in September, decisions that would have had to be made in June or July. And so reluctantly, we canceled the physical event, but please join us for the MARC Awards, and of course for next year and for future panels.
Yeah. Adam and Morgan, I want to talk to you guys, because we're going through the same stuff with the GMS conference and the Guild of Music Supervisor Bacchanalia awards. So
yeah, let's get together. Let's,
we'll collaborate. Teamwork throughout all of this, guys. Teamwork.
we'll arrange a Zoom call.
Yeah. There's a couple of you that asked if this is going to be recorded. It is going to be recorded. These will all be hosted on our site for free for the remainder of 2020. And moving into 2021, they will be available for PMA members only. So again, to Adam's point, be sure to join the PMA as a member. It's $99 a year for composers. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. We're happy to answer and help, any way that we can. So that's it for today. Thank you guys all again for being here.
Thank you.
Yes, it was awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day. Stay safe and enjoy your week, guys. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
everybody.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.